Hello friends. So today, the second day of 100 day of code, we are going to create a new component called the accordion. And this is how the accordion look like. So we have these, so there is some hover effect and there is a plus icon over here. And as I click over it, the uh, the panel expands. And if I click again, then it goes back to its position and the icon changes to a minus icon from a plus icon. So that's how accordion looks like. And this is what we are going to build today. Again, in case you don't want to see me type, I have this code available in GitHub and the URL for the GitHub account is given in the description below. You can use that and you can look over that. So starting now, I'll first create a directory. So I'll open the command prompt. I'll go into the CSS component directory and I will create another directory for accordion. I'll cd into that directory and I will open Visual Studio Code. I can close this for the time being. I can even close this command prompt. We don't need it for this anymore. I'll create, this is an empty folder. I'll create index.html, our main HTML file. Then I'll create, let's say style.scss file, which is my style sheet. And because there is a JavaScript required, I will create one more file called main.js. And once I've created these files, what I can do is for style.css, I will start the compiler watching CSS and it will compile this into style.css, which I can include it in my index.html. This is coming from an extension called SAS compiler by Ritwik Day, and I'll quickly show you as well. So this is the compiler, live SAS compiler. So this is the compiler. If you need to use it, you can install this. Similarly, I'm using another live server from Ritwik Day as well. This one is used for starting a web server and presenting the index.html file. So with this, what I'll go to my index.html file. I believe I can close this for the time being and emit syntax. It gives me a template. So I'll give an example. I'll give just a title here. And once I have given a title, there should be a go live server that should come up. And because that hasn't come up, I'll again go to this file. Let me close this and open the server again. Now I can see go live over here. Again, I need to watch the CSS file. I'm going to watch it and I am going to close the panel for the time being. I'm going to do go live. Go live will give me a web browser as well as I'll increase the size a little bit for the coding window so that we can see the code clearly. And for some reason this hasn't resized. Let me resize this properly. Okay, good enough. Now what I can do is I can go to my index.html file and we are going to create an accordion. So for creating the accordion, what I am going to do is I'm going to have a div container. Let's call this accordion. And inside this div container, let me create a button element and let me give that a class of accordion underscore underscore button, and let's call that section 1. Okay. And then I can perhaps, or I think it would be easier if I do this. So what I'll do is I'll have an anchor tag, sorry, button tag, then a class accordion underscore button. Then inside this, I'll give a text of section dollar, and that dollar will be replaced by a value. And inside this button, I'll have another div with a class of accordion underscore underscore panel. And this panel here, let me close this. This panel is going to have a p tag, and that p tag is going to have lorem 15, and I want three of these. So I'll multiply this by 3 and I get this. So this is all Emmet syntax. In case you want to have a look at this, it's enabled by default in Visual Studio Code, and the syntax, there's a lot of help available on the internet about this. So it makes the coding much easier. So I have a div class. I have a button with section 1, 2, and section 3. Then I have a div class with accordion panel. And then I have a paragraph element and with some random 15 words of lorem ipsum. And that should do it. Okay, that should all do it. I'll now go to my style.css file, and let me start styling this. So what I want is or usually what I'll do is whenever I start universal, any before element or universal tag, any after element, I remove all the margin. I make it as 0. So as you can see here, there is some inbuilt padding over here that should go away. And then I'll put a padding of 0 as well. And for some reason that's okay, we'll see why this. I hope it is compiling and it is watching. Let me see that. So if I go into files, I'll go into style.css. Okay, I understand what I never included the style.css file. So I will now include the link to the CSS file and let it be style.css. And as I include this, the extra padding and everything goes away. Now I go back to the style.css file. Another thing that I like to do usually is I give a box sizing of inherit. Then I will go to HTML, another nifty trick which I usually use in my other videos as well is I keep the font size as 62.5% so which makes my rem units one rem unit equal to 10 pixels. So instead of the default 16 pixel, my one rem unit becomes equal to 10 pixel, and it is easier to calculate different margins and paddings and other things in factors of 10. So that's relatively easy to do that. So I have this, then I'll go to a body section, body tag. Here I usually give the box sizing. I usually give the box sizing again as border box. So anything inheriting this, all the elements will have inherit, and anything under body will have a box sizing of border box. So that's one thing. Another thing, try to give a font size, the default font size for the document equal to 1.6 rem. So as you know, 1.6 rem is the default, but because I have set it as 62.5%, so 1.6 rem is 16 pixels. So I reinstate the font size, and then font family I can give as, let's say, Helvetica for the time being. Helvetica is font family. What else? Font weight. I'll give this as normal for the time being, and we'll see. So this is how this looks at this moment. Remember one thing, that this section 1, this font is different than this. Why? Because there is for the button element. So I will reset that as well. So button element font size will make it as inherit. So as you can see now the sizes are same. Everything is 16 pixel. So that's one thing. So this is the minimal reset that I put. And after that, let's start with our classes. The first class is accordion, and I really don't have anything to do over here. I'll simply go to the next one, which is the button element. Let's style that. So this button element, I don't want so first thing I need is, um, I want the display property to be block. So I actually want this to expand, and probably, yeah, okay. So this button is an inline element. So I'll make it as a block from an inline block, and I can even do an inline block. Let's see. Let's make it an inline block, and instead do the width as 100% of the parent element. So that is 100%, and it occupies the full width. Then I'll make let's give some padding around this, a padding of 2 rem. So this is good. Text line, I'll make it as left. So this comes back to the left side. What else? Uh, okay, so there is a border usually on a button. Let's remove the border and also remove the outline. So border and outline we have removed. Let's give it a background color. Background color, let's give it as 333. Yeah, it's quite dark. And color, I'll make it as hash FFF. I'll make it as white. Okay, so this becomes white. What else can I do here? So apart from this, I think I have fairly everything is there, more or less. Yep, looking fine. So what I want, whenever somebody hover over this button, I want the background color to be slightly less darker. So I want it to be, let's say, 555. Now if I hover over it, okay, so it highlights. That's one thing. Okay. And I want a plus sign over this. At the right end, I want a plus sign which should change to minus sign whenever we expand it. So at this moment, we know that every element has two pseudo elements, pseudo child elements before and after. We'll use the afterwards. And what I'll do is I'll put and after, and I'll put the content as, let's say the content will be 002B. So that's a plus sign. So this plus sign has come over here after the element. I want this to be at the right side, so I'll float this to the right, and so it goes over to the right. So essentially this, so more or less our button is complete. And what I want is, let's come to our panel. So essentially, let's see what we need to do about our panel. So we now target our panel class. Now our panel is a normal div. So what we want here is, one thing we want initially, all these three should be closed and should not show up. So I say overflow hidden, and I will put max length as max height as, keep max height as 0 for the time being. So 0 actually is going to close those panels. Okay, so that's right. 0 has closed it. Let's see how the panel will look before I make the height as 0. Let's delete this line for the time being, and what happens if I keep the background color to, let's say, silver. So this becomes a silver color, and I'll give a padding of 2 rem. Okay, so I want the expanded look to be something like this. So this should work fine. I'm going to remove the padding, because if I put the max length as 0 and I don't remove the padding, then this will not closed. And again, I'm right. Sorry for that. Max height should be 0, and that closes it. Now what I want is, after this, whenever there is an active class, I want, so let's write the functionality. When I click over this, what should happen? So one thing that should happen is, and because I'm going to animate this panel to open up, and I'm going to animate this side, I'll put a transition over here. Transition, let's transition all property over 5.5 second using cubic Bezier of 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. So some property over here, and let's suppose I have an accordion and I have a button with a class of active. Then if there is a button with a class of active, what I want, the background color should be still hash 555 if it is active. So when it is in open state, it should remain as active. And whichever button is active, for the immediate sibling, which is a panel, I want the following properties. So first is, I want a max height of, let's say, 6 rem, and I want a padding of 2 rem for the elements. And what else? Hmm, I think that should be it. Let's check this. Let's go to the index.html, and in the first button, let me put the active class and check. So this is opening up. There's ample space over here. There's a little space that is getting cut off over here. So I need to increase the size. Otherwise, this looks okay. So I'll keep this as active. I'll go here and I'll make this as, let's say, 7 rem. And this looks better. So this is 7 rem. Okay. Also, what I want is whenever it is active, then I want the the plus sign to become a minus sign. So whichever element it is applied, for the same element, whatever is the after child, I want the content to change to 2212. So this becomes a minus sign. So this is all good. And I think that should be it. That should be all the CSS that we require. And I'll remove this active class from over here. And I'm going to use JavaScript to open this. So I go to main.js, and before I go to main.js, let me include that. So there is this body. I'll go over here. I'll include a script, and that script is main.js in the same folder. This should be it. Now coming here, what I want is I want all the buttons, and those buttons are, let's say, document.get elements by class name. And what is the class name? Accordion underscore underscore button. This will give me all the buttons. I'll keep an int. I'll have an element var I, and I'll have a for loop. For I is equal to 0, I less than buttons dot length, I plus plus. And what do I want to do here? What I want to do here is for button of I want to add an event listener for the click event, and I want a function to be called on this click event, which what that function is going to do is it's going to do this class list dot toggle. I hope this works. We'll come to know. Let's see. Nothing is happening. So there's definitely something not correct over here. Okay. So the problem here is there should be buttons, and this should be all. Let me click on this and let's see. Yes. So my Accordion is working, the plus signs are converting, and if I click on it, the hover effect is still there, and if I click on it back again, it closes. So this is what we were planning to do today. This is how we have developed an accordion example, and hopefully you like it. Thank you for your time and see you again. Thank you.